Hi, everybody. I'm Amy Newman.
And I am Chris Carr, and we are two filthy casuals.
And I put makeup on a second time in a row for you.
Whoa, I'm wearing a whole ass jumpsuit.
We did it. We did. If
We're people.
All that to say, we are on YouTube, probably, hopefully again.
Yeah.
If we are not, if you search YouTube and there is no video,
Whoops.
one of two things happened. We either had technical difficulties or, well, no, this week I have makeup on. But if next week there's no video component and it's not mentioned, I just got sick of having to put eyeliner on for this.
Yeah.
We'll see. But I will tell you, we know that getting into a new fandom is intimidating, especially with all the gatekeepers out there.
Man, it sure is. And that's why on this podcast, we bring on a super fan. And that way they can talk about their fandom, you can ask questions, and dip your toe in sans judgment.
And I am so excited. We are so excited.
We are so excited.
I feel confident speaking for the both of us. We're so excited to welcome this week's guest. He is an event producer by day, best known for his work building the Emmys red carpet each year, and perhaps my favorite credit I've gotten to introduce, a dancer and occasional Freddie Mercury impersonator by night.
Hell yeah.
It's Dan Tiffany.
Woo!
Hi, Dan.
Hi, ladies. How are you?
Great.
Excellent. Thanks for being here.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to talk to Taskmaster. This is my favorite thing. We haven't even introduced the topic, have you?
I just did. You're such a pro
Here we
already.
go.
So for anyone listening
I
on
cannot
your
wait.
on your iPod Shuffle with no screen, now you know.
Way to call Logan out.
Does he still listen on
He
a...
still has an iPod Shuffle.
Could you imagine listening to a podcast on there?
What about on a Zune?
Oh, I see.
My brother had one of those. I love you, Adam. Sorry, but wrong choices were made.
I feel like the iPod because the iPod Shuffle only shuffled, right?
It only shuffles.
So you'd be like, if you tried to do podcasts on there, you'd just like get an episode of Serial at random, and you'd be like, wait,
the Russian roulette of audio.
Yeah.
where are we in the... Fuck.
Came back to life? What?
Be amazing. Yeah, today we're going to talk about Taskmaster, though, which, Dan, what the heck is Taskmaster?
So, Taskmaster is a villain from, I believe, the DC... No. This gets confusing.
We did get a couple of those questions.
Yeah,
I now know
which is
to
fair, which is fair.
clarify.
Usually, it's very exciting for me. It's starting to change in Google. I used to, whenever I would Google Taskmaster, because I would try and look up, oh, wait, what season was this person on? Or, who won that task? I'd Google Taskmaster, and it would be so much articles about, like, in the superhero realm and supervillain realm. But Taskmaster is a UK television show that is one of the biggest shows in the UK right now. Actually, it's one of the biggest franchises in the UK and now going all over the world, which is why I think it's really important to talk about it now, because you guys can get in while it's still kind of on the ground floor in the States.
Oh, hell yeah.
I can finally be shitty and gatekeepy. It's not that I don't like the idea of gatekeeping. I've just never known enough to do it.
I don't have cool enough vibes, I think. I'm just so excited about everything that I'm like, you don't know about this? Great!
I just want to be clear that if I could gatekeep, I would, but I can't, so I have a podcast.
And that is, I'm way more in your camp, Chris. If I'm, not gatekeepy, I'm just so excited that there's finally some traction that I can talk about this with people.
That was a dog on the floor shaking.
Sorry, guys, he's 14. He doesn't listen to me anymore.
Neither would I.
Why'd you have to out my age like that? Jesus. But to kind of get into this, I felt like it might be helpful to talk about a little bit of context of like, Taskmaster is the biggest panel show in the UK. What is a panel show? Because I feel like we don't have something like that in the States.
We don't.
Really.
I feel like we've tried a couple times and it's just like, it's not our bag for whatever reason.
The closest feels like the I Love the Decade shows.
Fuck, those were good.
That's actually a pretty great parallel. I never thought about that
you.
because no one's in the same room together. They just jump cut to everyone's
Yeah.
interviews.
Bring those back. Bring those
I
back.
loved them.
Mm-hmm. So it's funny because in the United States, they actually did try a version of Taskmaster, which we'll get into later, but it failed miserably.
Yeah, I
because it
searched
is-
on Roku and it was like, do you want this? And I was like, I don't think I do.
Oh.
You do not, which it's funny because that's the first iteration that I watched and I thought it was really entertaining, but it's like generally pretty panned and it was canceled after one season.
Okay.
We'll get into it,
Mhm.
but that led me to find this show. And so I've kind of been a bit of an Anglophile for British comedians and TV for a bit. And so I would find on YouTube this show called The Big Fat Quiz.
Yes!
Yeah, okay, yeah. The Big Fat Quiz is great. It's hosted by Jimmy Carr, and they go over the year with various things that have happened, and comedians have to answer questions about it. It's like a pub trivia quiz thing. But they would always have really great comedians on there, and they just riff. And so a panel show they have, it feels like dozens of these in British television. You get anywhere from, you 4, 5, 6 comedians, all with a different format, just kind of riffing a little bit about like various topics. So you have things like 8 out of 10 cats, 8 out of 10 cats does countdown, hypothetical, would I lie to you, mock the week, QI. It goes on and on and on and on and on.
I was big into, I don't know if it still exists or not, but I had my, as I like to call it, Teaboo phase, which is it's Anglophile. It's a British weeaboo.
Oh.
It's a Teaboo.
Okay. I was
I
like,
get it.
aunties? Why?
No,
What?
it's like where you want to be British real bad.
Oh.
Because I was all in.
Because of the T.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I was spelling it TIA.
Oh, no.
Okay.
So I had that phase, but I was really into Nevermind the Buzzcocks.
Hell
Yes.
No.
See, and I forget who is on that. Was that?
It was, when I watched it was Simon Amstel.
Yes.
I don't know who does it now.
I love all of these shows. I'm hyped. This is very exciting for me.
Okay, this is great.
Can I do a tangent real quick too? I have a Jimmy Carr brag.
Oh, we don't do tangents.
We
on
don't
this
usually
podcast.
do tangents.
We
don't do tangents. We don't get political. We don't do anything.
I've never done this before.
Funny
Not even
part,
one time.
Long-time listener of the podcast, I've never seen you guys do
Not
that.
even once.
No, we're so
Not once.
focused
I feel
on
so
the
honored.
topic.
We're
Yeah.
incredibly focused.
Look, I don't have a Celsius today, so I feel like I'm going to keep pretty on task.
I had a Trenta. I'm gonna be crazy. I might stay up till 10 p.m. You guys.
I do have a coffee, which feels it feels analog. like I've
you
gotten
live in the future with your Celsius.
I've gotten hooked on energy drinks, and now going back to like a cold brew coffee feels like going, you know what? I love that album, and I'm gonna fucking put the record version on. Like it feels.
Ooh.
Celsius is digital. You can take that, Celsius.
Sponsor us already, you cowards.
The AI of caffeine.
Beautiful.
But my coffee, I feel very like I should be playing a banjo.
That I feel like that makes sense, since for me, I was like, what a decadent treat, a caffeinated beverage. Nona's gonna stay up late tonight.
I put too much sugar-free syrup in there.
Oh,
it's kind of gross.
Oh no. I'm sorry.
What's your Jimmy Carr story?
Yeah, I was about
I'll
to say.
allow one tangent.
I was doing a show at the Comedy Store,
Mm-hmm.
and they came up and let me know, hey, somebody's going to drop in ahead of you, just a heads up. And I was like, oh, that's totally fine. No worries. It happens all the time. And my husband and my friends are in the audience. And like you, Dan, my husband is a huge Anglophile. He loves British comedy and all of these shows that you just mentioned. And so coming to the stage, and I see him walk past me, is Jimmy Carr. And so Jimmy Carr goes and does his set. My husband acts like an absolute muppet in the audience because he's like, Jimmy Carr, what idiot has the same name as him? And then loses his mind when he sees him.
Naturally.
He tries out some stuff, then boogies off, and I come on right after him. And I get to do a little like Tiny Toons joke of, hi, I'm Chris Carr, no relation. And the biggest like win from it was I heard that iconic laugh because I made a David Tennant DuckTales joke.
He laughed at one of your
Yeah,
jokes?
he laughed at one of my jokes, and it is the like highlight
high
of my
praise.
career. It was so wonderful. And Logan ran around screaming outside the Comedy Store, Jimmy Carr opened for my wife. And we weren't married yet. And I was like, oh, he's gonna marry me. Holy shit. So
He
Jimmy
called
Carr
you?
helped me get married.
He just
That's
was
the moral of the
casually
story.
calling you his wife?
Yeah. He was like, that's my wife. And a bunch of my friends were like, not yet, she's not. Put a ring on that.
I had the opposite experience of one time. This is not as cool. I was at a bar. Shout out. I'll drop a name too. The Cielo Lounge at Morongo Casino.
Morongo.
Morongo.
Good times.
Oh, that joke landed for everyone in SoCal
Hell
and
yeah.
nobody else.
Yes.
And the guy next to me, or next, yeah. Whatever. A guy next to Eric at the bar was like, can you ask your wife to scooch down? And we were not married and we were not looking at it yet. And I was like, the rest of the night, I was like, you didn't fight him.
That's sweet.
I'm shocked he didn't run then. So anyways.
Anyway, so
Panel
Jimmy Carr.
shows.
Shows. Jimmy Carr, all of them.
Jimmy Carr tends to host
Last tangent.
most of the panel shows out there. It's actually kind of a joke that he just hosts a lot of these shows. But he has actually never been on Taskmaster yet. Who knows if he ever will.
Oh, would
I
you
feel
want him
like
on there?
So I think Taskmaster at this point is almost like a veritable who's who of comedians that have been on the show. Like it's anyone that you've seen on one of these panel shows has likely done a run on Taskmaster. People who have hosted these panel shows have been on Taskmaster, with the exception of like him. Richard Idawade is a big personality that I'm waiting for him to show up
He's
there.
so fucking
He's
funny.
so funny, and he would be so interesting to watch on that show. And I don't know
Yes.
why he hasn't done it yet, because he's been on everybody else's shows,
Yeah.
but not that one. So I'm sure there's
I
a good
feel
reason.
like he would be hysterical on that too.
Hysterical.
Like I cannot think of a format that would be funnier for him.
Well, it was like him and Noel Fielding together on the Big Fat Quiz
Yeah.
was comedy gold to me. Every time they were paired up together, I laughed my ass off. And so when Noel Fielding was on season 4,
First love of my life, Noel
Taskmaster.
Fielding. Continue.
Yeah, see,
Good
okay,
pick.
Holy shit. I'm still like, Eric, I love you and I am so committed to you. But
That funny vampire, Chimon.
16-year-old me would never forgive me. I loved him so much.
from IT Crowd, from
Mighty
what was
Boosh.
it? Mighty Boosh.
Mighty Boosh. I am actually shocked I haven't forced you to let me talk about the Mighty Boosh on this show yet.
Oh, I'm waiting for it. I'm excited about it.
I almost got a Mighty Boosh tattoo. Like the love I have for that fucking
There's
show.
still time.
There is
You
So
still
then,
can
are
get
you
it.
watching? We are going so off, but so have you been watching like Bake Off now that he's hosting? Because I
Hell
kind
yeah.
of
I'll put it on.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I sort of fell out of this type of TV show, not for lack of enjoying it. I think I just, it's sort of the, like when you get obsessed with like a breakfast and you're like, I'm going to make overnight oats, and you do it so many times that you're like, I think I can't look at overnight oats again. I think maybe I did that for myself with
Off?
British comedy. I don't watch a ton of Bake Off.
okay.
That's the thing. Like I feel like post that high school obsession, like into mid college, I still like it. And anytime someone puts it on for me, I really enjoy it. But I don't seek it out quite the same. I think Tumblr broke my brain.
Oh.
Ruh-roh.
But is it scripted British comedy that you're not kind of into, or is it the kind of more organic, again, like these panel show kind of improv riffing stand up?
Like
Comedy as
I
well.
don't watch a lot of these panel shows, and I feel like I don't watch a ton of Bake Off. I don't watch like
Bake
watching
Off's in its own
for
thing.
sure. But like I'd seen a tiny bit of this, but like the most I've watched of Taskmaster was prepping for this. And even though I'm like, I think I'd like it, I think it's a funny concept. So
You should watch for your buddy Noel in season 4. He's a gem in that.
He's
it's
incredible.
Mhm.
And he also gives the vibe that he is going to sleep with everyone.
Oh.
And I'm so here for it.
I
He's
was-
such a cute little flirt.
we were watching a little bit of Bake Off Baking Show. What's it called? For real, for real?
the
Great British Bake Off.
Thank you. But here we call it Baking Show? Is that correct?
Bake Off?
No, but here we call it Baking Show. Did I
Here
make that up?
I think so, because it's the Great British Bake Off.
No, I'm aware.
Of the American version.
Yeah.
Oh, the
It might have
American one
been.
that they
Who
do.
cares? Yeah.
Oh,
I
I don't know.
Anyway, my point is, and someone yell at me in the comments. I don't give a fuck anymore. I already drank my Celsius for the day, and I'm sad. You can't hurt me. I do like that I can really stare down the barrel of the gun and scream at our audience now.
Like a really aggressive Jim Halpert.
Yeah, I'm like. Go to YouTube to get the end of that joke if you're listening. It was funny. Just trust me. But we were watching Bake Off, and yeah, there was definitely a moment of like, I keep thinking he's flirting with, but then it's just every single. I'm like, that man could have fucking chemistry with a coat rack.
Oh my God, yeah.
Ridiculous. I want to meet him just to be on the receiving end of that energy.
Same.
I feel like we might
Just
need to
once.
just redo this episode as just like British television like fandom at this point.
Well,
Like,
now we're just booking you for more in the
Yeah.
future, Dennis,
100%,
and we're
yeah.
going to dive into all of these.
'cause, yeah,
But
we could just keep on going on this, but
when it comes down to like the brass tacks of what Taskmaster is
Oh,
amongst
sure.
all of these panel shows,
So it's like, what the fuck is it?
I've been
Please.
listening for 20 minutes and they haven't even said
My
the word.
iPod Shuffle only has so much data.
so compared to these
Okay.
other panel shows that are very question oriented, quiz oriented, what's different about Taskmaster?
Beautiful question. So Taskmaster is the panel part of it is only one piece of the show. So there's a live studio audience tape section where all the comedians then are evaluated by the Taskmaster Greg Davis and his assistant Alex Horn, after they have pre-recorded tasks done at the Taskmaster house or various other locations where they're given a very random task to do. They conduct it to the best of their ability, usually with very, very funny results. And then later, months later, they all meet in the studio and they kind of evaluate the tasks together. They watch the playback of it, and Greg, the Taskmaster, awards points based on how they did. And those tasks usually range, I like to think of them in like kind of two different categories. You have your like kind of more ethereal, creative types that are very subjective, it's like,
well, I feel like it often starts, right, with like a bring in a thing that best fits this category, and it's a more subjective, like, I like this one best, right?
It's actually great. Oh, you should just break down the format, first of all. Is like, so the show, you have your 5 comedians, Taskmaster, assistant, they intro the show, then you go right into the first task is the prize task, where everyone brings in something based off of a prize task that they were sent ahead of time, which could be something like... Well, in earlier seasons, it was a lot more basic. It was something like the most interesting thing, the cutest thing, the most expensive thing, bring the most cash. And that one I like specifically because with any of these things, it can be very open to interpretation as to how the contestant has viewed this task. And then ultimately it will be up to Greg to decide how well they kind of catered to that task. And so with the cash one, some people brought Monopoly money. Some people brought... Vietnamese dang, which was like 7 billion, but it only equated to like $78 or pounds. And then someone showed up with a wad of 2,000 pounds. It was just like boom there. And the producers apparently did not know about that, did not know she was doing that. And she was like, here, this is just I brought you this, but also in case you don't think that's good enough, here's $2,000.
What did they think was going to happen?
They didn't think people were, it's a silly little game show. No one's going to put $2,000 out on the line, especially for someone to theoretically win at the end of the episode, because these prizes are all things that the winner of the episode gets to take home. Sometimes that is the one thing I do question sometimes, if whether or not they actually are taking these things home, because people have brought in family heirlooms. They have brought in their kids' baby teeth and umbilical cords. They have brought in like antiques, one-of-a-kind things.
I got to imagine even if you quote-unquote win it, there's probably a lot of after the filming, like, hey man, you can have this back.
Didn't somebody bring in literal shit?
Yep. And
what was the category?
I couldn't tell you, my friend. I don't even remember.
But I do want to go on record and say, if I was making like TV money,
oh, that's right,
I would spend $2,000 on a random competition if I thought I'd win.
That's true.
That's right. I do believe it was Bob Mortimer brought in, I think it was some of his like, it was like freeze-dried shit or something. Yes.
Was it his?
I believe it was his.
That's the worst case scenario.
There was another one too where it was like just bringing something disgusting or something, and somebody had their sister wipe their bum, and then they brought in like the tissue that the poop was on.
They had
not like you wipe my bum for me, like she wiped her own bum and then handed off the toilet paper.
Why'd they have to ask their sister to do
it? I don't know.
I guess that does make it extra disgusting.
I will say, so far, I feel like I'm really selling this show. That
I jumped in with poop.
Push past it. It's delightful.
So you have the prize task at the top of the show. People are awarded on a scale of 1 to 5, because there's usually 5 contestants. Then you go into 3 pre-recorded tasks at the Taskmaster house, and then you have 1 live in-studio task that everyone competes at the same time. And then you total up all the points. At the end, the winner gets all the prizes and wins the episode. And then there's ultimately a grand prize winner at the end of the season with the highest total points over the course of the season, and they win a gold bust of Greg Davis's head.
Is it the same comedians for the whole season or series?
Yes, I love that you dropped that. I
could still quote every episode of The Mighty Boosh from memory. I know the difference between a British series and an American one. For our American listeners with a life, British shows call seasons series.
That's correct.
And series also series? I don't know.
I don't know what the equivalent for the series, like the
I guess
whole
just the
show as
yeah.
a whole, yeah. But like if you were to say, series finale in Britain, it would just be the end of their season versus a series finale here is the end of the show, Capuzzo.
Yeah.
Those wacky motherfuckers.
I know, right? Aluminium. So right, your question was,
I don't remember, so I'm glad you do.
is it the same people? So what actually makes this show different from other panel shows? Usually every episode of something like What I Lied to You is they rotate in different people every episode to intermingle and talk in the various game or format. This, you stick with the same 5 comedians over the course of the series or the season. And so that's actually what makes the show really fun and really funny to me, is I have been introduced to so many comedians that at the start I don't know them or I'm not getting a good vibe from them. I'm like, I don't know if they're going to be great on here. You kind of grow with them over the course of 10 episodes. You learn so much about them and how they're thinking and how they're playing and how they maybe are interacting with other contestants or the Taskmaster, that you really kind of build these relationships, and the comedy just kind of only deepens and gets furthered by these relationships between the contestants that develop, and it makes it really special and really fun. And so then every series you have a different 5, but with the exception of then you have Champion of Champions every 5 seasons. They do then kind of all the winners of each of the 5 previous seasons compete to be then the very, very best.
Like Survivor All-Stars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like
Except
Survivor
I don't
All-Stars.
think they do the winners on... I don't know. We need to get a Survivor guy in here.
We should.
Actually, you know what? You're right. There is...
I think it's random like fan favorites more than the winners. But the Taskmaster does it where whoever wins the... I feel like getting asked back to Taskmaster is way less of a, I don't know, than Survivor.
Yeah, exactly.
This looks pretty fun.
And usually that's only for like an episode or 2. Because this ends up being a series of Taskmasters, a several month-long commitment. Sometimes these people are given tasks that take months to complete.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like one of, a good example, one of my favorites was they were told to make an announcement and make the biggest announcement to the most number of people, and you have 12 weeks to do it.
Whoa.
And so it was a season where Russell Howard was on there, and he was saying, oh, well, I'm going on tour in India. I could, like, say something to that entire crowd, which he didn't. And people had all these different, what are we going to do? The winner was Asam Chowdhury, and it was so creative and great and a cool little gotcha moment, because usually, we'll get into the specifics of the tasks in a minute, but there's so many gotcha moments in the show where Alex and the Taskmaster are turning the script on the contestants. This was the first time that the contestant had kind of like, or not the first time, but it was a great moment where he got Greg, because he made an announcement the episode prior in front of all of their faces. He was like, just want to say before we, get into anything else that I'm from here on out, I'm a vegan. And he tried to get everyone to clap, and everyone looked at him really strange.
But to the television audience?
It was broadcast. It was in the episode.
Yeah.
And so then the next episode came out. That was the prize task the task was to make the biggest announcement to the biggest audience. He was like, well, your audience is pretty big. This is a successful show, right? Like, yeah. Well, play the clip. And
that's so
he won.
Good.
Yeah. Ooh.
So what I love the most about this show is the creative problem solving. You're given a very generic task like that, and it's, how am I going to solve that? Or you're giving even a very specific task of like, pop this balloon fastest way, or fastest popping of this balloon wins, and what's going to be the most efficient way to do that?
Yeah.
Given the obstacles and parameters that you're given.
Yeah. It is funny too, just seeing how different people's brains work. I feel like it's part of the fun too. Like even just watching, because I watched the first episode, and just the watermelon task, where their task is just eat as much watermelon as you can in 1 minute. And that one guy just walks in, picks it up, and slams it into the floor. And it's just like, what did you think that was going to speed up? Like, it's such an insane panic maneuver, I think, but it's really fun to watch people just do the weirdest, most that feels batshit to you in the moment, but then also like, I don't know, man, under panic, I might have done something equally fucking weird.
Dude, the panic mode that goes in with these and how people break down is almost one of the funniest.
Oh, I would cry. I was watching this thinking, I would probably end up in tears at least once.
Oh.
Has that happened? Would I be the first?
I actually don't know if anyone has ended up in tears. People have ended up very, very upset.
Yeah.
And very
I feel
emotional.
Like I jumped around randomly and I saw one where they were blindfolded and they walked into a room with a bunch of empty cans, like a bunch of empty cans stacked up in a pyramid. And because they were blindfolded, everyone started, and they had to, I think, stack them or like end up with the highest stack. And they didn't realize they were going to be stacked. So they walked in and a bunch of people like knocked him over and trying to fix it. And like, you could tell a couple people were right on the edge of like, I'm not having fun anymore. This is fucking frustrating.
There have been so many moments.
Which
like
would
that
just
where
be me from the jump, though.
Yeah, I'm hyper competitive, so I would,
Yeah.
I think, scare everyone on the show.
Me too. How do you think you would do?
God, you know what? I would love the chance to try. It
Yeah.
would be a dream, and that's why
You did.
I think you're going where I think you're going.
You did. Here's I think a podcast rule. If anyone pitches a fandom wherein they have thrown an event, like a milestone event in their life themed to that fandom, like we had Laura Lee on here who had a Goofy movie, or I'm sorry, no, she only gets to watch Goofy movie once a year. It's like if you have anything that significant in your life, and you, Dan, had a Taskmaster themed birthday. Therefore, I was like, get this man on. He wants to talk about Taskmaster.
Absolutely. And I think you're selling yourself short because, as I recall, Miss Amy
won?
Newman, you won.
What? Were you the Taskmaster? Then?
I
Were
was
you
the
the Greg
Taskmaster.
Davies?
Yes.
Okay.
And I was in no shape to, I was playing at a handicap. I was coming off of surgery, which it was dental. So it didn't really affect my physical. There were no eating challenges, to be clear. But mentally, it really, I do feel like I should have gotten some bonus points because I had a boo-boo in my mouth.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I was in a grumpy mood, and
But you came to win.
yeah, and I did. And I did.
What's actually really great is from that party, then we just actually went to, me and my wife, 2 weekends ago, to another Taskmaster themed game night. They went to my birthday party. We're like, we love this idea. We're going to make our next game night Taskmaster themed. And now they're going to continue that as a trend. And that's popping up more and more and
Yeah.
more.
Hell yeah.
And then that leads to this, like, this Taskmaster renaissance that's kind of happening where, like, the amount of exposure that the show has, like, even if you don't understand what we're talking about right now, the reach of the show is about to be, like, inescapable.
Yeah.
It has 2 podcasts, official podcasts about it. They've written multiple books. There's a board game. There's a VR game. They tried their own streaming service. There are multiple international versions that have spun off. There's a kids version. They have pulled...
There are Christmas crackers because we got them this year and no one wanted to do them and Logan was so sad.
I feel like it's going to blow up at least to the level of Bake Off.
For sure.
Because I feel like there was a real Bake Off explosion in the U.S.
Oh, absolutely.
of everybody going, this is fun.
Mm-hmm.
This
Yeah.
is nice. We don't have anything quite like this.
Exactly.
We tried.
Mhm.
We tried and we failed.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it was... So, some brief history here. So, the show started in Edinburgh Fringe Festival in 2010. Alex Horn, who plays the assistant on the show, created it there. He sent out tasks to a slew of comedians for a year, and then he judged them at the Fringe Festival. Did it multiple years, got interested by this TV network called Dave, and they picked it up. It's a smaller network, does, like, comedies and stuff, to be picked up into, like, a TV series. Became successful there, ran for, I think, 9 seasons. They do 2 series a year.
Thank you.
And then Channel 4 picked it up. And so that was huge.
And
That's
Channel
like
4 is
big
a
leagues.
big network in
Yeah.
the UK.
It's massive. And it's been on there ever since. So then in 2018, though, that's when the US decided to, like, try and option a US version of it. We spoke about that briefly before. And Alex Horn brought it over. He played the assistant again. They had Reggie Watts as the host, which, if you watch the UK version, Greg Davies, who we haven't really talked too much about yet, he's curmudgeon-y. He's a big guy, big personality.
Literal giant.
Literal giant, yeah.
How
And he
tall is
pulls
he?
no punches.
I think he's like 6'7".
Oh.
Yeah, he is massive.
He's
I-
a big fella.
Did say the words earlier today that I think anything over 6'5" is hubris. I know you can't control it, but come on. I'll really come for the most niche communities. The tall,
You rein it in, tall fellas.
blonde men.
Well,
Wait, tall blonde men
Oh,
or tall
God.
and
Tall-
I got beef with Sweden, kind of as a
Yeah,
concept.
which is so funny because Taskmaster is really big in Scandinavian countries. Their
Aw.
biggest spin-offs are
You keep it to yourself, Spen. No, you can't control that. It's fine.
Where
I'm
were
just
we?
saying.
yeah. So Greg and little Alex Horn.
Oh, right. So Greg and yes, comparatively to Greg, Alex, who is also over 6 foot.
Yeah, but
he is
compared.
little comparatively.
It's like a
Um,
reverse. I realized recently Adina Menzel is like 5'3".
What?
Wait.
Someone fact check me.
'Cause
How
I know-
small is Kristen
'cause Kristen
Chenoweth?
Chenoweth
Like
is tiny.
4'11". And like Cynthia Erivo and
Ariana Grande's.
But Cynthia Erivo's also teeny tiny.
Yeah.
She and Adina have tall energy.
They do.
Am I right?
Looks like Adina is 5'6", so
Oh,
still
is
tiny,
she?
but, like,
Okay. But like
Yeah.
shorter than me,
yeah.
which is weird.
That is weird. You have tall girl energy, though.
Do I?
I think so.
Yeah.
All right.
Do I?
I always think you're taller than me
Oh, yeah, that's true.
because I have
Because we have this weird moment every time.
I have
of,
no object
Why are you
permanence.
small?
Do I have tall girl energy?
You do have tall
The
girl
tallest.
energy. I'm sorry, she's 5'6", but short. Like she looks like a freaking giant.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, so 2 tall men,
Yes.
one taller than the other.
So
That's where we start.
the U.S. adaptation, Reggie Watts,
Yes.
is instead of Greg Davis.
Very
in this
different
version.
energy.
Very different energy. More chill, more matter of fact. It actually wasn't. Some of the best moments in the studio in the UK version is Greg just ripping these comedians new assholes for how they did in the tasks. Reggie doesn't really do that. They also shortened it, from an hour to a half-hour show.
Ooh.
There are multiple other changes. They've still had 5 different personalities come in. They weren't all comedians. They had Dylan Francis and Freddie Highmore were 2 of the gentlemen on there. Then they had Kate Berlant.
She's
and-
funny.
Yeah. Oh, and I forget.
Hot
who
take.
else. Oh, Ron Funches was on there.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
But they similar tasks, except the prize task they took out of. Instead, someone just brought something that actually that meant something to them, that was significant to them at each episode, to then be the prize at the end of the episode. Like Dylan Francis on the first episode brought his first laptop that he mixed beats and stuff on. I don't know. I got enough out of that show to be like, this concept is very interesting.
Because you said you saw that first.
I saw that first, and I was addicted to the idea of again, this creative problem solving. You're still getting these tasks. You're still trying to figure out the best way to do these things and seeing how people's minds tick. That I was like, I like this idea. I want to watch more of it. Even the U.S. version was enough where I was like, proof of concept for me.
Do you think the American version didn't work solely because of the changes, or do you think there is something kind of inherently British or not American? Is there something culturally that just wouldn't translate on this? Or do you think there is an American version of this that would have been great? Because I know other countries do it successfully, so it can't solely be British, but we kind of have our own
They do. You know what?
mess of a vibe over here.
That's very true.
I would almost think that that the pacing is not quite enough for American audiences.
Yeah.
Because it is much more laid back. We're having a conversation. We're talking about these things. Or we're just knocking rubber ducks off of a wall and finding entertainment in that. And I don't know if that's enough to hold the attention of an American audience. For example, you have Great British Bake Off that is just we're just baking, versus Hell's Kitchen, where it's we're screaming, we're throwing, there's
We're
drama.
throwing each other under
Yeah.
the bus. Yeah.
So I would be interested to see if now that there has become more of an interest of the show and the franchise, if they were to try it again, how that would work. I don't think they will because, Alex and Greg, I don't think need it. Even though, I don't know, they're becoming bigger in the U.S. They've been here twice in the past year on Seth Meyers doing late night interviews. They premiered the first episode of season 19 in New York City. The world premiere was here in the U.S. for the first time, and they have the first American comedian who flew over for season 19, Jason Mantzoukas, who I'm so stoked to
I-
see.
So unhinged.
I'm excited to get a closer look at how that brain ticks.
Oh, absolutely.
Huh?
Well, it really is like a huge deal too, because it's only been the Commonwealth up until now where we've had some Aussies and some Canadians popping up. So he is the very first American,
Wow.
and what an American to pick.
I was super excited to hear that he was going to be involved. When that announcement trailer came out that showed that he was part of this upcoming cast, I was like, finally, because he even talks about it on his podcast on How Did This Get Made. He'll recommend Taskmaster, and every time he would throw a shout out to that show or to one of the comedians on that show, I would be like, yes, Jason knows what's up. So apparently he asked to be on the show, and that's why they accommodated him. They were like, oh, well, sure, come aboard.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's going to get more and more into the American market.
I feel
in the
like
months.
it's not the same, but I feel like when you try to do an American version of this kind of concept, you end up with, oh no, what was it called? It's not Chopped and it's not Kitchen Nightmares. It's the one with Elton Brown having kind of Dom energy.
Oh, Cutthroat Kitchen.
Cutthroat Kitchen,
There we
which
go.
does have one of my favorite reality show moments of all time, which is a guy at the end going, I want Chopped, and the camera pans out and you just see the big sign that says Cutthroat Kitchen on the wall behind him.
Perfect.
No
notes.
But I feel like, and like that show's insane. Again, like Elton Brown comes in there like full like daddy Dom energy, like you have to be handcuffed to somebody and cook a souffle, and it is like not the same vibe. That's what happens when you give us reality TV.
Yeah, they turned Alton Brown into like this like from this cuddly good eats personality to like
Yeah.
I am scared of this man.
Definitely.
And then I kind of wonder.
So we talked a little bit about the tasks and how they work and everything, and we've got this great question from Charge and Die.
It's friend of the show, Noelle.
Oh, it is? Yay! Okay. Were there any tasks that seemed straight up impossible or unfair? Because we've talked about how this is a lot of outside the box thinking or just kind of logic problems or creative, how do you interpret this kind of thing? Are there any that you watch and go, whoa, that's cruel?
So an impossible task off the top of my head, it's hard to think of one that specifically maybe isn't exactly achievable. I know there's been lots of examples where people have all been disqualified and been unable to do it. Doesn't mean it's impossible. Like a good example was when they had to get all of this water out of this vase and it was like on a plate or something. And then you could have like heated a candle and it would have like sucked the water out to the science shit. I forget how that
Yeah, it creates a
That checks out.
vacuum.
Exactly, yeah. And no one understood that, even though, and this is a fun part about the show, usually like on the backside of the task or underneath the table or somewhere hidden in the room, there can usually be a hint of how to complete these tasks if you're savvy enough to find them. And so no one got that task because everyone spilled the water or broke the vase. So usually like with the tasks, there's a bunch of different rules that you have to follow, otherwise you get disqualified. So like another one was like fill this cup that's on the top of a pole with water. Most amount of water in the cup wins, but you can't step on like this mat that's in front of it. And people would step on the mat or they'd knock the cup off or something to that end. And it's the technicalities that kind of rule the show and actually create some of the best moments in it.
But they've managed to never come up with one that sat wrong with you as a fan. It's more the like, yeah, that's the rule. Because I feel like there's a difference between stuff that's frustrating as a player in the moment and stuff as a fan that would bother me of like, oh, come on.
No, because even the ones that
You respect
that
the
I would
task?
be like, oh, come on, that's bull. The arguments that ensue in the studio over that task, or even people just being like, Alex, yeah, that task was dumb, and Greg being like, yeah, that task was dumb. Okay, we're moving on. Like, are really funny.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't take any of those moments back, even the tasks that seem like failures. That's what makes a panel show so brilliant to me. Right. Is then it's what's great on YouTube now is like you have your watch channels, right? It's you're watching someone watching a thing, watching the contestants watch back their task attempts is almost more entertaining than the task attempt itself.
When I think it's maybe part of the brilliance of this format is it's not a game show where we're playing for $1 million. Like, we're not playing for any kind of life-changing money where it would make me angry if someone lost on a technicality that felt unfair. It's like, we all kind of know at the end of the day, it's a competition because competition makes fun TV, but it's all in service of, like, funny and entertainment. Like, there's a reason I think they hire pretty exclusively comedians to do this.
You
Oh,
do.
absolutely.
That said, they do get incredibly competitive
I
and
would
very
slit
nitpicky
a
about it. Yes.
throat. To be
Like-
clear.
One of my
You saw me at your birthday, Daniel.
Oh, yes. Again, came to win.
I was like,
did-
all right, I'm not bleeding from the mouth right now. Bring it here.
I didn't have a choice, and I was a taskmaster. No, like one of my favorite moments is actually in one of the seasons. They had to collect the most amount of pineapples out of like this like bog of water, and there were various different pineapples, and without like falling in the water or whatever, or getting into the water. And they did that, and there were like 5 that were like out and about, and one person did all that and then just started drawing pineapples and drew a bunch on a piece of paper, and then ended up with like 20 some odd pineapples when there were only 6 that you could feasibly get. And the debate in the studio got so heated and so angry. And then I believe it was Frankie Boyle. Let me just double check. Yeah, okay. Just remembering this right. In season 15, because it was Mae Martin who drew all the pineapples, Frankie Boyle made the case that, yeah, that those are pineapples. An image of a pineapple is still, you're still saying it's of a pineapple. It represents a pineapple. And then...
Real Cessay Nippon peep situation.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. And then...
That is the smartest joke
I've
I've ever
I was
made on
gonna
this
say, that was
podcast.
so fucking highbrow.
Ivo Graham, one of the other contestants, was livid, being like, well, that doesn't, like, I could draw a picture of anything. It got into very metaphysical debate.
Of like what
stuff.
constitutes an
Yeah.
item.
And that then carried on through the entire episode. Callbacks to that then just became funnier and funnier and funnier. And then indeed for the rest of the series.
Yeah.
So people get, and actually one of my favorite comedians of all time, especially in Britain, is James Acaster. And he's in season 6, 7, I believe. 7, series 7. And he would get so upset at his fellow contestants, at Greg, at Alex, everything. It was the best. I would highly recommend, if you want a season to start with, watch series 7. It's got him in it. He's paired up with Rod Gilbert, who is one of the most cunning
He's
players.
maniacal. Because
'Cause-
he and Greg are actual friends.
Exactly.
They do all kinds of crazy shit where he like involves Greg's family.
Oh my god.
He was
Yeah.
hiding out in Greg's closet while he slept for one task, and just took a video in there and then showed that in the studio, and Greg had no idea about it because he thought he had left his house after a party he had hosted.
Whoa.
And so I
But
think
when I do it, Dan.
you don't get any points. It's so sad.
It's just a crime.
I believe we did have a question about like who's your favorite.
Yeah, we got-
and why is it
Yeah, who's your favorite contestant and why is it James Acaster was something that got written into.
I love that question because that is correct. Well, actually, I want to say that because I love James so much. It depends on what you define as like best contestant, because I think there's a lot of ways you can judge that. There's currently the best person to ever play the game was actually only like a season or 2 ago. I think it was last year. John Robbins. He ended up with the highest score that we've seen in the show so far, and I mean, so technically he's the best by score values, but
What
he
is
was
that
so
really?
he was so boring. He wasn't very funny. He wasn't very entertaining. He did the tasks very well, and so I applauded, how he'd do that. But I was so pissed when he'd win an episode because I'm like,
Yeah, I
so
guess.
meh. Yeah.
Has anyone ever, kind of on that topic of what makes a good Taskmaster contestant, do people ever lean so hard into like, I'm a comedian, I'm trying to create entertainment, like, or even I have a persona that maybe doesn't lend to like, I should be the strongest contestant. I feel like I don't remember her name or what, but like, I feel like I saw one where there was definitely someone where there was a little edge of like, I feel like you're not playing very hard because it's kind of your persona to be a little like stingy and, which is fine. I get it. But I could see that verging on frustrating for a whole season of like, no, play the fucking game.
Yeah, there have definitely been a couple who've come on and kind of have maybe laid it on a little thick, even though I do think that most people generally are trying pretty hard. Who you're probably thinking of might be Lucy Beaumont, because her persona it's a great season to watch, season 16. She's hilarious on it. Sam Campbell is on there, who's like deadpan humor is made Greg laugh more than I've ever seen him in the show.
Yeah.
But Lucy, would say the most ridiculous things.
Yeah.
But it was so funny. So I think, and she did terribly. And sometimes though it is hard to tell. Like, actually, another example was like Joe Brand, a famous comedian over there. I've seen her like in other shows. Just didn't give a fuck. But she still played. But no, it was funny to watch though. Okay. Still, like she would still do the tasks, but like if the task was do this fastest, she wasn't running, and you knew she wasn't running. And sometimes, given the nature of the tasks, she could still win because other people were rushing and messed up on a different rule, and then she, slow and steady, won the race.
Yeah.
And again, she'd come back and own her performance in the studio, and it'd make for great comedy. I think it's the most interesting, the people who seem like they're genuinely trying, and they're kind of like these lovable losers. Like, you have the biggest relationships with them.
Yeah.
My favorite being David Baddiel in series 9, who was atrocious the entire series. And I don't think he was trying. I think he just was bad at it. And like he was trying to lasso, the task was just to lasso Alex, get a lasso and just lasso him and not touch like the area that's in front of him that's covered like in a red-green kind of carpet thing. And other people had various creative ways of lassoing Alex. He decided he was going to tie a bunch of wooden spoons to the lasso, and that would like help him lasso Alex. And they just kept flying off of there, and he would tape them back on there, and he would throw the lasso out, and it would get all tangled. It was a complete meltdown. And he did this.
Lassoing is harder than you think.
It's true.
It is. It was a tricky challenge, but I don't think the way you help that is with wooden kitchen utensils.
I just say that as someone who went through a big Western phase as a kid and had a toy lasso, and I was amazing at spinning it in a circle. But then the second I tried to throw it on anything, I was like, oh, that's just rope. This sucks shit.
Yeah, I do know that with him, his season was the first time that my wife, who will watch occasionally with me, laughed her butt off at like one of his meltdowns or one of his contestants getting mad at him about how shit he was being. Like one of my all-time favorite memories that come up is, and I think it's series 5, where it has Nish Kumar and Mark Watson. They're given the task, and sometimes they'll have team tasks, right? They have 5 contestants, so they'll have a team of 2 and a team of 3, and then they'll work together on a task. This one was a team task where you had to, you met this random woman, and you got to know her for 5 minutes, and then you had to make a song about them and perform it at Taskenberry Festival in front of her. And the team of 3 made a song that was called Rosalind's a Fucking Nightmare or something like that. That actually ended up being like going a little viral like on YouTube, their YouTube channel. But the 2, Nish and Mark, who throughout the entire series were, again, these lovable losers. They were so bad at the tasks. It was so funny how bad they were at the tasks. They made this song that was so legit good. Musically, it was catchy. It was sweet. It was phenomenal. And like the audience, then you were on this journey this whole season with them, and then you see them just nail something. The audience in the studio lost it. Greg and Alex, lost it. We all were just like, you were rooting for them, and then they finally like got it, and it's one of my favorite moments in the show, period.
It's so cute. They jump up and hug each other and are like, yes,
Aww.
we did it. It's so lovely seeing all of these comedians too on the show who didn't get to hang out with each other normally or just hadn't crossed paths to really connect and genuinely enjoy one another too. I think, as comedians too, it's the best feeling when another comedian laughs at you. Like that's just a win. And to be in a room and have all these other people who are your peers or people you look up to join in on the fun and love what you're doing or love the way that your brain works, I think is one of the best components of this show, because you just see people really celebrating one another, even though they're in competition.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The camaraderie is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's the best when you see. That's why I love Sam Campbell's season, was he would just say a line and Greg would lose it. And it would have nothing to do with the task, but he would just say something just off the cuff, and then everyone was just laughing their butts off.
But have you considered we could make an American version wherein every contestant has to, at the beginning of the season, be like, everyone I love is dead, and I need the money for surgery, because that's how we do game shows in America, and it's really good, actually.
Ooh.
It's really good.
And then there's always some other person who's like, I just want to take my wife on a nice vacation. Right. And we're like,
Boo,
dude,
burn in hell.
Robert needs a new kidney. What are you doing?
And then if it's like a cooking show, there will be one guy who's just aggressively like, I'm from New York. I'm Italian. And one thing you got to know about me. I love that guy. I'm happy when he goes home, but I love his vibe.
I'm related to that guy.
Every single one of them.
Every single one of them's one of my cousins.
I can't believe Alton Brown is being so dominant. I'm not usually a sub, but I'm gonna wear these figure skates on my hand and give it a try.
He wants me to have a ball gag. I'm gonna have a ball gag.
Cause that's the Brooklyn way. You know what I mean?
There is.
Where's that guy on Taskmaster?
I was going to say, this is a weird segue, but there is a sort of sexual relationship that has manifested between Greg and Alex.
Oh.
There is a lot of thank you, daddy moments between them.
Which has led to a lot of fanfic that is filthy. I've not read it myself.
Give me the laptop. Give me the laptop. Give me your laptop, Chris. Hand it here.
Not now. Off air.
No, yeah. So you're not the only one who's picked up on that tension. Obviously,
Okay.
you know, it's for the bit. Because I don't even know if we got to this part that Greg is the taskmaster. He judges everything that the contestants do. Alex is his assistant who helps carry out all the tasks.
It's not this show if we're not an hour into an episode going, oh
yeah.
Here's what it is.
Here's a basic concept
This
in
is what
here.
the thing is.
Yeah. And so with that, which is ironic because Alex came up with the show originally. It's his show, but he's much funnier as this role as the assistant. He doesn't have the personality to kind of be this dominating Alton Brown-esque,
smart to know how to play to your strengths.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's fantastic because like they'll have this banter at the beginning of the show where Alex is always trying to, cozy up to him or like when his praises or whatnot, and Greg is always just like really demeaning to him. So the push and pull with Greg and Alex is very fun to watch because in the character of it all, Greg hates Alex. Alex is always pining over Greg, and it's entertaining to watch. Sometimes they'll break the fourth wall, which is also very funny. But like you'll see them in interviews and everything. They're friends. They're buddies.
But the fanfic.
Oh yes, right. Thanks for bringing it back to the important part. Yeah. So the fanfic.
God, I miss having a Tumblr. Like I know it still exists, but it doesn't.
No.
Yeah. Where do you even get your fanfic? At Reddit? Like
Archive of Our Own. Did that shut down? I gotta go save
so
some things.
fast.
I gotta go save some things.
But to like the yes daddy moments though, there are plenty of times though where Greg does like make Alex just do something. He's like, oh yeah, you think it's so hard? Why don't you do this? Or actually, I have a little task for you, and make Alex do it. And Alex is like the number one yes and person. He will run with it even no matter how scary or weird it is. Like contestants have like found his like family information, social security numbers, or like have like done. I think he's practically gotten waterboarded in a task once before, and he's like, but he's game with it. He'll roll with it because he also is the one usually subjecting people to the torment and humiliation and stuff. So if you can't dish it out,
Exactly.
got to take it.
100%.
Are you? So you found this show on Comedy Central when it was in America?
The U.S.
in
version.
LA.
Yeah, right.
Specifically.
It's so funny. I was this close to even working on it too. My production designer that I was working with at the time was asked to be on to work on the show, and I was her assistant. Had I known, but yeah, no, it was on Comedy Central.
That's why it failed, Dan.
Yeah.
They didn't have that secret sauce.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched this show so many times. And I'm like, the art department must have such a great time figuring out how to rig these things. But yeah, so it was originally on Comedy Central, or the US one. And when I wanted to find out more about it, there wasn't really a way to watch it in the States. Their YouTube channel has only been active since 2019. And now you can watch all the series and all the spin-off series on there, including, oh my God, I would actually, little aside, definitely recommend watching the kids Taskmaster version that just came out called Junior Taskmaster.
It's charming.
It is so cute. They get like 8 to maybe 10 or 12-year-olds or something, all doing tasks that aren't quite as crazy as the adult ones.
I could see this being an exception. I don't generally care for children-based competition shows because if they're bad at it, I can't laugh. And if they're good at it, I feel bad about myself.
You can laugh.
Yeah, you absolutely can laugh.
You can laugh.
Yep.
I would have
But
stopped that I don't much care for children is where I would have ended.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I feel like this might hit a little differently because, like, kids cooking show us, I'm just like, what the fuck am I supposed to get from this? Because, like, I'm not going to be like, you didn't marinate that?
Well,
but also...
Especially because those are all on casting networks. Like, those are... Am I ruining the mystery
The
for everyone?
kayfabe.
Yeah. I've coached so many kids on their auditions for that show who have no cooking experience.
Just a 7-year-old like, I'm from New York.
and I'm Italian.
Wait, doesn't Alton Brown have like that junior cooking show and stuff too?
Does he?
He does.
It's not.
Isn't it like MasterChef Junior? Is he on that one?
No.
No.
MasterChef Junior is still Ramsey.
Oh, right.
Another angry blonde man.
Yeah, who's in
You
all
know?
the cooking shows. We
Yeah.
only have 2 cooking celebrities in
That's
this country.
pretty much it.
You put some motherfucking respect on
Guy
Guy
Fieri.
Fieri's goddamn name, Daniel. I swear.
The mayor of
to
Flavortown.
God.
The maker of donkey sauce.
The only restaurant in the Burbank airport.
It is. And man, that Bloody Mary is expensive, but it's worth it.
I mean, they have that, oh my God, that scotch that's like $200 a shot there or something.
Y'all ever
What?
have...
Rip Van Winkle or something like
Oh,
that.
sure.
Van Winkle or
Sure.
something. Yeah.
I thought it was Guy Fieri specific. I was like,
No.
what?
Anyway, so Taskmaster.
Donkey scotch. Go on.
When I was interested in watching more about the show, the only option I had was
Was it illegal?
I mean, I don't know if it was illegal because I found it and I didn't get viruses and no one's coming from me. But like,
Here they come.
there are some uploads on a site that you can bleep this out if it is illegal, right?
Oh, I don't
No,
give a
it's-
shit. Go on.
No, but I care if the government does. Yeah.
Oh, they are too busy.
There you go.
Yeah.
Touche.
Yeah.
No, but so like,
it's not inefficient.
Yeah. It's the Wild West right now.
You're
fine.
a white man. They're not going to come for you.
touche. So are you familiar with Dailymotion? Are you familiar with
Yeah.
that video site? So yeah, so I would find people uploading the episodes to there, and that was the only place I could find it without having like a BritBox account or something like that.
Mhm.
And due to like, regional blackouts and everything, I couldn't get it like on various other platforms.
It's weird for how global our world is, how occasionally it will just be like, oh, I cannot find this British thing where I
Yeah.
live.
Yep, not at all. And I think that's why it's also taken so long for it to kind of apply. It took 5 years for them to even start a YouTube from when the show came out, and now it's taken 5 years to kind of get a following going. So yeah, I would watch on Dailymotion, wait anxiously by the computer for someone to like rip and upload it for the first again. I forget what season that they switched over to their YouTube broadcasts for, but
So you were in it pretty
yeah.
early on.
oh yeah. But before it was easy to be a fan of this, because now it's all free. It's all
Yeah.
the episode drops on their YouTube like the day after it airs in the UK, and I remember like during the James A. Caster season, that was to whoever submitted that question. They're my people, because that season when I found out he was going to be on there was one of the few times I can remember in my adult life where I was pretty much like waiting by my computer for an episode to drop.
Yeah.
That's why this is my fandom. I love Batman. I love superheroes. I love video games, all these things. But this is the one thing that I have, in recent memory, ever been like, oh my God, when is the new season of Taskmaster coming out? When is that episode going to drop? Oh my God, they have so-and-so on the season. I cannot wait to see this. So what's next we going to bring? Every time the season's over, I am heartbroken until the next one comes around.
Were you always I know you liked like British panel shows. Were you a reality TV guy? Are you an escape room guy? Like, are there more like crossover interests, or was it just that I like British comedy, so this kind of channels?
That's a great question.
That
Actually, I
is.
love that you brought up like escape rooms because I think there is so much of that logic
Yeah.
built into the show. There's even certain tasks that are basically an escape room.
Do you like escape rooms?
I love escape rooms.
Will you go with me to one? Because I've never been. And one time I was admittedly right about to start my period, and Eric looked over and I was crying, and because he was like, oh yeah, when I did an escape room with my improv team, and he looked over and I was like crying, and I was like, no one's ever done an escape room with me.
Okay. My brother-in-law is also obsessed. We'll grab you. We'll grab him. Well, Chris, are you down?
Absolutely not. This is my personal hell. I am so
Really?
claustrophobic.
Oh, but it's not necessarily like
I need to
you're
know where the
locked in.
exits are.
They
I
can
panic at conventions.
They'll let you out, like if there's an emergency. It can be like a lab
If
or
there
like
was a fire and they were like, "Ugh, but you didn't get the key."
I fully rationally know that they will not make me be in there. It's one of those things, though, of
Doesn't matter.
why would I pay to figure out how to leave a place?
I think it's more of just
Gimli's
the
with
logic
you.
of because sometimes even depending on the escape room, it's not even trying to figure out how to get out. It's like figuring out how to stop the zombie apocalypse, or you have an objective to. It's just one great big connecting puzzle.
That's true.
But you're into that kind of like puzzle game as well.
I love puzzles. And wait, what else did you ask? You asked
Like,
if it was,
reality TV.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned Survivor. I used to be a big fan of Survivor. I've kind of fallen off that. And I don't love like your Kardashian kind of reality TV. But
Yeah.
but definitely like your
Like
competitions.
game-based,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like I watched So You Think You Can Dance for a while. That used to be one of my big passion shows. So yeah, competition reality I tend to really enjoy. But it's funny, I was thinking about this on the drive over here, though, as far as British comedy goes. It is kind of a specific thing where I do just like the panel shows. I love stand-up comedy. I think that's maybe the biggest cross-section is. I'm a huge stand-up fan, and I'm a huge improv fan. So this is just a great way to see comedians on Showcase like that. Because my dad, raised me on Monty Python and Fawlty Towers and other shows that I appreciate, and I love Monty Python. But I don't watch a lot of scripted British comedy so much. Not that I don't like it, but I'm not as drawn to it.
Yeah.
I think I like more organic content sometimes.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
God damn. As a comedian, I just desperately wish that level of comedian job existed in the US. Like every time I watch a panel show, I'm like, I could be the worst person on one of these. Come on.
As a literal personality hire, it is all I want.
Yeah.
I have no other skills except talk,
Yep.
and I really wish we had those. Oh, it'd be wonderful.
It's wild because they just bounce from one of those shows to another one, to another one, to another one, then back to the other one. There's
Dream
certain
career.
50 comedians just kind of run the circuit over there, and then
love it.
occasionally someone new joins in. But
Look, I'm no Fielding, but I could flirt with everyone.
You could.
careful,
Thanks,
don't fly
babe.
too close.
Oh
to
my
the sun.
God, Amy.
Oh.
Wow.
I was like, careful. Russell Brand used to be on that circuit, and then yeah.
I like the implication that I am on a similar path, and a couple jobs are the only thing stopping me.
Fame will
And
change you,
a
Amy.
failed marriage to Katy Perry.
Yeah.
Like you got some roadblocks to hit.
Yeah. We have a few other listener questions, too, here. From Miss Rachel, 1986. What is your favorite piece of office equipment that's been used?
That's a very interesting question. I am trying to think of all the different stationary items that were utilized, and the first thing that came to mind actually was a laminator, because in Series 14, it's funny, Taskmaster sometimes will like rent out other locations instead of their house to do some of the tasks. So like they've been in like these weird warehouses before. In Series 14, they rented out part of an airport, and so I mean, not really to any end. It didn't like play into being in an airport, but it had like more levels and a different kind of environment to be in. But they just had to print, laminate, and distribute the most number of signs. And I think Dara O'Brien had such a hard time trying to figure out how to use the computer and the laminator that he spent almost the entire task just figuring out how to do that.
Oh, that's the one that would make me cry.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I got beef with every printer and every
Yep.
like piece of tech like that I've ever owned.
So yeah, so Laminator, especially because I think the Laminator comes back in another season. This is so funny that there's through lines like this because someone, the prize task was bring in your favorite piece of stationery, and someone brought in a Laminator and got the 5 points because Greg Davis, the host, used to be a teacher, and he was like that was his favorite piece of stationery equipment.
Oh, funny.
Office equipment, and so immediately, the contestant came in and was like, "Greg, you were a teacher, so you tell me on the count of 3 what your number one piece of stationery equipment was." On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, Laminator. They both said at the same time. Boom, easy 5 points.
Wow.
So, and I have a Laminator at home. It's great. I don't use it nearly enough.
That's fantastic. Jim Possible asks, favorite series? I feel like you touched on this a little bit, but
I always love and hate this question because there's almost too many to pick from because there's certain moments in each series that I love and certain contestants in each series that I love.
Do you, just spitballing off that, do you think if someone hasn't seen the show and wants to figure out if it's for them, because I definitely saw some like greatest moment compilations, is that chill, or would you say like jump in on a good series and watch the whole thing?
I think watching a greatest moment will give you a good idea of the show. Just know that like that's not going to give you the full experience because you, again, want to kind of grow with the cast and get more context with them. And I think that's where you kind of really get the most value. But you can understand better how the show is formatted, the kind of tasks that they're going through, how people react to it. But I think one of the beautiful things about the show is it's easy to watch as a casual viewer. You can just put on any episode right now and be entertained.
Yeah.
There are interesting contestants, interesting tasks. You'll get some enjoyment out of it. But it also pays off to be kind of a consistent, long-time viewer. That said, you could hop in with any series, I firmly believe. You could watch the last series, you could watch the first one, you could watch a random one in the middle. Like, I didn't start from the beginning when I finally found the series. I think I found one that had a comedian that I liked and watched that one.
And I bounced around a little, and it didn't seem like one where it's like, oh, they've really shifted how they do. It's sometimes with reality TV, it's like, oh, the first season to now is almost unrecognizable. It seems like they kind of had the formula and more or less have stuck to it.
Generally, yeah. And some people say, that Greg's attitude has changed. Some people think that he's like not as cutthroat as he used to be. Maybe that's the case. I see how he sometimes is maybe a little bit more lenient on some things, but I still think it's just as entertaining.
If someone said, I know it's hard to pick a favorite, but if I said, Dan, I want to watch Taskmaster, let's put a series on and watch it, which one would you pick?
Series 4.
There it is.
It's your boy Noel Fielding's season. With
Wait, is that
Mel
me
Gilroy.
specific? Or
No.
Okay.
No. That was always been one of my favorite ones. Because I think Hugh Dennis is great on it. I think Mel Gilroy, who's an old Bake Off host, is fantastic on it. Noel's
so
is great
peppy
in it.
on it.
What's that?
She's almost unbreakable.
Yeah.
They try.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They literally have a task just to try to see if she'll get upset.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Because she was so happy, and Greg was like, knock it off.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So I would recommend that as like a good jumping off point. I then think Series 7 is also a good one. The James A. Caster, Rod Gilbert season is another one of my top favorites. I think even Series 5 is good. That has that Nish and Mark moment that I was talking about with the song. Series 9 has the moments with David Baddiel that made my wife laugh so hard and break down. Oh, and Series 16 is the one with Lucy Beaumont and Sam Campbell we're talking about that I think is worth watching.
Yeah.
So those would be kind of my top picks, potentially in order.
Ooh, okay.
Oh.
Nice. Lexington wants to know, UK or New Zealand? Which Taskmaster would you?
UK, easily. I am glad that there are lots of international versions going around and they're successful. I started watching the New Zealand one. I don't know, maybe it's just kind of like, you have a preference towards what you were introduced to and grew up with kind of thing. If you, watch one version of a movie and then you watch the remake of it or you watch the original, you kind of have your own partiality towards it, right? I just thought the New Zealand contestants didn't have as much like kind of fervor and passion, and the Taskmaster also wasn't as silly. It was almost too deadpan.
Yeah.
It's a very specific type of humor.
Yeah.
That seems very indicative of New Zealand.
One, I think probably, I would assume if you're familiar with British humor already,
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of clocked into how that differs culturally from American humor
Mm-hmm.
versus New Zealand humor. It's like, I think I only have Flight of the Conchords as a real,
Yeah, Taika
like
Waititi
some Taika
stuff.
Waititi
Yeah.
movies,
Yeah.
as that's sort of culturally what to expect.
Yeah. And I think Flight of the Conchords probably is a good parallel to that. It is, it's funny, but it is kind of a little like tonally one note versus you kind of have
Little
more.
deadpan,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
more the vibe, yeah, which
Exactly.
isn't good or bad. Just
Exactly.
a
It's just
matter of taste.
different. And again, I love the silliness, the over the topness that Greg gets into, and the passion. Like I love seeing, like one comedian, Gus Kahn, like would get so riled up and so angry about stuff, and then like he'd get 5 points, and he'd like chill out and be fine. It's all great.
Oh,
And
that's
it's
me.
like-
You saw
yeah.
that. You saw me do that at your birthday.
Uh-huh.
Where it's like, oh, fucking, I swear to God, you won. Oh, thank you. Well, damn, what a good and thorough
Yeah.
look at the Master of Tasks.
Woo woo.
Dan, do you have anything else you'd like to say on the topic or otherwise? Really just get on a soapbox now if you feel
Yeah,
like it. I don't give a shit.
Well, so let's talk about Teslas. No.
And a quick word from our sponsor.
Celsius,
The
save
Cybertruck.
us.
No.
Oh, no. Oh, when does the new season come out?
There it is.
Or the new series, excuse me.
How?
Yes, new
Chris?
series.
I'm such an American. It's so embarrassing.
So Series 19 actually still doesn't have a specific release date. It is
Ooh.
just spring 2025.
Okay.
But again, it's in the works because the first episode was premiered in New York City last month or a couple weeks ago at this point. So it's coming soon, and it is great in that kind of like some reality competition shows. They do put out 2 series a year, so there's not going to be much time between Series 19 and Series 20, which I think will probably be great. Officially at their like kind of 10-year, 20 series mark. That's a huge benchmark. I can't imagine what the cast is going to be like for that. And you also get, we didn't even touch on this, that there's New Year's treat episodes that happen once a year at New Year's where they actually pull in big time real celebrities in Britain to be on there. People who wouldn't normally commit to several months of ridiculous tasks, and like John Hannah was on there. A lot of people who, it's funny, in hindsight, I now know. When I was watching at the time, I was like, who are these people? But like Nicola Coughlan,
Oh.
Bridgerton fame, and Dairy
Dairy
Girls.
Girls.
Yep. Amelia de Moldenberg, and countless other celebrities who are much bigger in the British TV scene outside of comedy.
I
Coming in
think
it.
your dog just exploded.
Sorry. Okay.
I'm not cutting that.
You shouldn't. He's your favorite.
He's
so.
a star. He's a star.
Into the mic, though, Trico. Okay?
Explode this dog. Fastest twins.
Any thoughts?
Zero thoughts. Well, Dan, if people want to follow you and keep up with you, where can they do that?
So you can find me on Instagram at D_Tiff, TIFF, 2 Fs, boom boom. But I'm really, I'm here just for the
The love of the game.
yeah. I'm here for the love of the game, Amy. Yeah. So like honestly, hit me up on Instagram if you want to talk more Taskmaster. I would love that. I am so glad that you've seen so much of this show, Chris, and I am excited to talk to Logan about it more.
Oh, hell
And,
yeah. Please do.
Yeah.
Please. Please?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And the next Taskmaster party we throw, you guys are obviously invited.
Oh, hell
Watch
yeah.
out though, because Amy is gonna.
Oh, I'm going to
her.
try to just be like, can we form an alliance or something? Because I don't want to compete against you. Fucking terrifying. No.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Join my team because I won the other Taskmaster party.
Oh, be
Ooh.
unstoppable.
Champion of champions in this room. Let's
And
go.
I'm
Dang.
going to throw a what the fuck was it called? Cutthroat kitchen party.
There you go.
Yeah.
But that's just
That's just so you
That's
can be a
just-
dom.
Wait,
that's just
is,
kink.
Is, is Eric gonna be Alton Brown?
everybody get out of the room. As for us, you can find us, if you're listening to this, go watch us on YouTube. We are at youtube.com/Two Filthy Casuals Pod on YouTube. There's video of this as well. If you're watching on YouTube, go to Spotify and listen.
Yeah.
Do a switcheroo.
Cross it.
Cross your streams, try it the other way, and
Yeah.
see which one you like more. Face, no face.
Yeah.
Your decision. You can also find us on Instagram at Two Filthy Casuals Pod, and if you want bonus content, you can find us at patreon.com/Two Filthy Casuals Pod for 2 beautiful, unfiltered, raw takes episodes.
You're selling this really great. Let's go.
We get real. We get real.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
get edgy. So you can do that.
Yeah.
We get real. You know why?
Why?
Because we're Italian.
Jesus Christ.
Truly the last people you can make fun of. You can
Oh,
only make fun
yeah.
of Italians.
Just like a soft, offensive stereotype.
I'm pretty sure we've talked about this before, but if you go to Renfest, it is so mean. There's just all these Italian jokes at the Renaissance Festival that after a while, as one, you're like, why do you guys hate us so much?
And I want to be clear, I love that guy.
Yeah.
I love that guy.
Thanks. He's my cousin. Probably.
Dan, thank you so much for being here. Chris,
Thank you so much for having me.
thank you so much for being here.
I live here. Thank you for being here.
Thank me
I did.
for being here.
Yeah.
And until next time. Yeah?
Mhm.
I'm Amy Newman.
I'm Chris Carr.
I needed permission for my own name. And if you follow this fandom, you'll be home by now.
Did you need my permission because I'm the Alton Brown?
Yes, Daddy.